Hi, this is Sonal Bharti and we are here at KubeCon in San Diego. And today we have with us Kris Nova. I have been following you for a long time, the work that you have been doing in this space, but I'm more interested in your personal journey as well.
Okay.
So we'll start first with open source.
Okay.
When and why you got exposed to open source and you fell in love with it?
I'm gonna actually tell you the real answer to this because I think it's pretty comical. When I was a kid, we had like a family computer, and I had accidentally installed some software that one of my friends in IRC suggested I download. I of course downloaded some viruses or some malware. Imagine the 11-year-old version of me like downloading software on our old Windows computer, and I ultimately sent the computer to a crashing halt. And my folks were not very happy with this because they had a lot of important documents saved on the computer that they were counting on being there. And as punishment, I was given the task of fixing the computer. And so after months and months and months of reading online and going to the library and checking out books, I discovered this wonderful thing called Linux. And so my solution to fixing the computer was installing Linux on it, which completely erased everything, and they were not happy with my solution to fixing the family computer. And as I was going through that process, once I finally got Linux installed, I actually found out that it was significantly easier to get help trying to do things with Linux because there was a community there. And as I went through high school and college and dropping out of college and starting my career and everything, one of the things that always stuck with me was this sort of scientific approach to problem solving that I learned at a very young age from the Linux IRC channels, which was it's okay to talk about failure. It's okay not to know something. Just if you don't know something, like pay it forward, document it, and come up with a solution, and make sure that you are sort of, again, going back to the hygiene comment, having good hygiene around how you're using open source. And I became completely addicted to solving problems in Linux and documenting them, and people coming to me and saying, hey, I read this and it helped me. And I think that started a lifelong journey of my love of helping people in technology. And
do you still use Linux desktop or you?
Yeah, I have Arch Linux on my laptop.
Oh, you're also Arch Linux user? I am also Arch Linux user. I actually wrote a tutorial also about how to use Arch Linux in the easiest way.
Yeah.
So that has been my favorite, distribution. I love rolling releases.
Yes.
So and package build, is very easy to. Only problem I have is that my Plex server always crashes. It's always broken.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's beautiful. And I also like open source Tumbleweed because that's also rolling release. It's a bit tested, so it's a bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's switch gear with your personal life.
Okay.
Talk about your personal the evolution or journey of your own identity.
Of my identity in open source, or just in life?
No, in general in your life personally, what you feel.
Oh God, I'm really gonna unpack some worms here. So yeah, I think this goes back to open source. Like I fell in love with helping people at a very young age, and I was actually talking to one of the folks on the Falco team about this earlier today. One of my fatal flaws as a human is I love helping others so much. I'm willing to go above and beyond to protect people, to prevent them from having to deal with any noise or any confusion or any frustration. And the one person that I always seem to be neglecting is myself. And it's very, very easy for me to make myself suffer silently while helping out others. And so I think as an engineer and as a person, over the years, I've evolved into sort of this weird hybrid philosophy of I need to start protecting myself and managing myself and loving myself as much as I do other people. And it's been a huge journey to discover who I am and what I am, or for that matter. And then kind of like start to respect that person and love that person and protect and help that person in the same way that I would help like my fellow open source engineers. And we see this in like my behavior at the office, my relationship with my friends, my relationship with my partners, even my own gender identity as I went through a gender transition. Like all of this is sort of this reflection of me slowly accepting who I am and starting to love and protect that person.
At what point did you realize, did you start having, I am 40 plus, right?
Sure.
And I mean, we go through this midlife crisis,
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to figure out who I am, what you want to do, because, suddenly I'm like, I used to be, when I was 18, I feel. So when did you like come across that, you felt like, this is what you are, this is what you're not?
So I still don't know what I am or what I want. I just I would say now I have an exhaustive list of what I am not and what I don't
No,
want.
it's also gender identity, what
Yeah. So again, like it kind of, there's two answers here. One is I've always known something was wrong. Since the day
something was wrong.
Something was wrong since the day I was born, and it took me until I was 27 to finally do something about it and start to figure out what was wrong. And then I made some changes, and I started my transition, which has been a crazy journey. And honestly, like I kind of wish more people had an opportunity to go through it, because you really learn a lot about yourself as you go through it, and a lot about the world and what's important to you. But yeah, like even now that I'm 6 or 7 years into this whole process, and I've grown my hair, I've cut my hair, I've grown my hair, I've cut my hair, I've gotten surgery, I've changed my name, done the whole song and dance, like I still feel like I will continually be exploring myself and the world around me and how I fit into this world until the end of my days. Like it's a never-ending process, it's a never-ending journey. And it's not about getting there. Like I'm never done growing, whether it's in my gender transition or what I know about Linux or what I know about open source or what I know about any of the hobbies I get into. It's a lifelong exercise in learning more.
Why do we have to associate ourselves, because I grew up in India, right?
Sure.
And there was no pink or blue, toys or dresses for, you can see goosebumps in the rising, because this is topic sensitive to me also.
Yeah.
Why do we have to associate ourselves with either associated with this gender or that gender? Or as you said, it's like, I feel like when you say it's like continuous process, it's not that, oh, I'm done.
Sure.
Because we're never done in life.
Yeah.
So why should we, so what do you think about that?
So I'm going to use open source or just computer science primitives to kind of give an answer here, right? So when you look at it, it's easy to faction ideas into a binary, right? Like 0 and 1 is much easier to understand than a linear scale or a 3-dimensional scale or a 4-dimensional scale, or an absence of data on a 4-dimensional scale. Or like as we start looking at like complex data and data mapping and describing different things that we as humans can observe, like it can get very complicated very quickly. And then you introduce something like time into that and how it changes over time, and now it's like compounding logarithmically. And so I think the simple answer here is it's just easy for people to put you in one of two categories, right? And you can look at that like Emacs and Vim, Democrat, Republican. Like it's just your Windows or your Mac, you're the Green Party, your Linux, right? Like it's just easier for folks to sort of have larger factions to break things and ideas down into, and I think that's where a lot of this has come from. And if I've been recently teaching myself a new language, and gender is much more than just like what defines a person's endocrine system. I think it's like it's baked into our language, it's baked into our words, right? Like one of the first exercises I did in learning Icelandic was starting to learn about strong and weak cases and how to use the right gender for different verbs and nouns. And I think as a society, it was just easy to look at a person and just say, you're a boy, you're a girl, and I'm going to put you in one of these two buckets. And nobody really ever had incentive until now to go through and actually say, maybe I'm somewhere in the middle, and maybe it's not a 0 or a 1, and maybe it's a scalar value, right? And I think that's where we are today, and we're starting to explore these more complex ways of representing humanity.
What kind of challenge you face, either politically, socially, and what role tech IT plays in helping it, to break those, binary boundaries?
Sure, absolutely. So I mean, like it's the CNCF has done great. We have a lot of diversity efforts. I've been involved with a lot of them. I was one of the first folks to win the diversity scholarship. Like I think there was me and 4 other people the first time that we had a diversity scholarship, and I got to go to my first KubeCon in Seattle. Because of that. And so like I think there's effort in place to raise awareness. Like let me give you another concrete example. We used to have like a women's Slack channel for Kubernetes, like in the Kubernetes Slack, and it was sort of this invite-only safe space for women. And then more and more what they would call themselves NBs most of the time, or non-binary folks started joining, and they weren't sure if they were welcome in the women's channel. And so we thought about it, and we later changed that to gender minorities. And the idea here is it's not about being a man or a woman. It's just about being, making sure that we're trying to be as balanced as possible in the types of folks that we have. And I think that's important. But if you look at the majority right now, it's kind of obvious what we have and how they identify. And I think anything we can do to help others feel safe and that they're welcome is very important.
I mean, for you, it's kind of, the way you feel, it's different. For me or any other person, if we have not been in those shoes, we cannot. So how to, there is a lot of biases, subconscious bias. So how to kind of create allies, because not everybody is a bad person by nature, but
Sure.
sometimes people are not sensitive or aware of it.
Yeah.
So when you talk about CNCF, not everybody is, non-binary or every. So how do you kind of make people aware of it so that they are not? I would not use the word sensitive, but just they're educated and aware of, that okay, this is also what.
So, so let me give you an example here. Like you mentioned, you grew up in India, right? Like I have no idea what that's like. I've never even been to India. I have no idea what that was like for you, or what it's like for India, other folks from India, or what it's like to even move to a different country. And so, like, I think the important part here, and like we see this with security, even the surveillance system is basically the system you put in place to respond to something when you don't know, you aren't expecting something, and you don't understand something. So I think we kind of all like have this responsibility to sort of say, I don't know what it's like for you. And regardless of who you are, the color of your skin, or what you have between your legs, or how long your hair is, or if you wear makeup or not, or whatever, every person I meet, I try to say, hey, I don't know their life. I don't know everything about them, and I don't know what it was like for them and what they went through. And it's probably very different compared to mine, and I probably have a lot to learn from them. And I think that sentiment to me is more important than anything else.
Right. What has been your experience, after your, I mean, you're going through your evolution to find it's not, that you said, I have not made a decision, whether I'm boy or girl. It doesn't really matter, to be honest,
Sure.
So how has the open source community reacted? And do you think that you felt more welcome because it's open source community versus other outside world, the general tech community? How different is open source world?
So, I mean, I would say open source is better than most communities that I've been involved in, even outside of tech, right? And honestly, like one of my favorite stories to tell is I was working on an open source project, and we were doing all of our communication via IRC. And so my name was Kris, and some people just assumed I was a boy, and some people assumed I was a girl, and some people didn't care. And it was just interesting. For me, I had stayed up for weeks. I was very stressed. And I had decided that I was going to finally announce to the IRC channel, I am a woman, damn it, and make sure everybody called me she, her. And I remember I typed this message, and I erased it, and I typed it, and I erased it, and I just let it fester for days. And finally, like, I got the courage, and I hit the enter button, and I just sat there, and I just watched the little cursor just blink, waiting for a response. And one of the guys in the IRC channel goes, that's great, but you still screwed up the last commit. And I was just like, and to me, that was kind of the moment where it's like, okay, yeah, like this might have been more inside of my head than anything else, which was an important lesson for me to go through. And that's why, again, I made the comment, like, I think it would be kind of a good idea for more people to go through a similar process as a gender transition, because you kind of learn to second guess yourself, and you learn that there actually is a lot going on in your world that stresses you out that maybe only exists in your world and not to everyone else. So,
do you have any anecdote or a story where you met somebody, you're interacting for a long time, you met somebody, and then they say, "Oh, this is you are, you're a girl, you're a woman." Any interesting, really inspiring story that you still think about it and you feel chilly on that?
I mean, it's happened. Like, you never know what you're gonna get. So there's been. I do a lot of mountain climbing, right? Mm-hmm. And so like the mountain climbing community is completely different than the tech community in some ways and completely similar in other ways. But like there's been so many weird interactions where I've been like, I'm transgender, and somebody's like, what's that mean? And then I tell them, and then they're just like, wait a minute. And then they have a million questions, and it's literally the first time, and it's like a grown person, it's the first time in their life they're actually thinking this thought. And it's just kind of exciting to watch. Like they go all the way from, is this medically possible? Is this legal? Is this weird? Is this a sexual thing? Is this and it's just exciting to see a person just all of a sudden have like their entire view and mold of reality completely changed in front of their eyes. I feel like it's like an opportunity, like very similar to like what like a street magician would see. It's like you actually get a chance to go and do something for someone, and they're like, I don't think this is possible, and you just are, it's here right in front of me. And then in other times, there's been like moments where I've been like on a mountain climb with somebody and I'm in like, full gear and you can't really see my face or you see my hands or anything about me. And I just a person with a backpack on with completely covered head to toe. And somebody says, oh yeah, Kris is trans. And it's about 50-50. People think I'm going one way or the other and nobody really knows like which way I'm going. So I think it goes back to this whole expect the unexpected thing. You just don't know what it's going to be like and be ready for anything. And I think it's good for people to see it. And I think it's good for people to experience on, the other end of it of folks being kind of taken aback by things that make you happy. Like at first it was very scary for me, but now I kind of get a kick out of it. So.
And how was the response of your family or friends?
Oh gosh. Again, there were people I told who I knew they weren't going to be okay with it. That they were going to kick me out of the car as we were driving down the highway because it was going to. And then they go, "Oh, really? That's great. You told I'm actually gay." Or, I've got a secret too. And it was kind of this recursive element of like, I was constantly surprised because people would all of a sudden I thought would hate me because of it, started sharing their own secrets with me. Or contrary-wise, I got to say contrary-wise, people I didn't even think twice about were very, very confused and it was hard for them. And as far as my family goes, like that's a whole other box of worms we don't need to get into. But yeah, like there are people with older ideas who are confused and repulsed by some of the life choices I've made. And, I've found over time that, I'm happier without those type of people in my life.
Yeah, I mean, and I think in most cases, I married, a white American, and there was so much struggle in my family. They didn't want to marry. It was for months and months from both sides, So so families are the hardest nut to crack.
Yep.
Everyone else is easier. So yeah, I can totally understand that.
I think for me, I've really learned the value of chosen family. Like I've got some of the best partners in the world who I truly love more than anything. And I consider them family. Like at the end of the day, these are the people I want to be there for me. If when push comes to shove, and it really is like that. Like those like 1 days a year where it really matters. I consider those folks my family.
You have been like courageous, brave. I mean, you went through your own, as you said, you're waiting to hit the button. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are going through the similar, I mean, they have their own story. What word do you have for them? So just to give them that additional push that they need to be brave enough to not tell the world who they are, but just to accept themselves.
Jump. Just do it. Life is too short. Like looking back on my life, like I spent so many years afraid of jumping, just in fear. And I finally jumped and it was worth it. It was scary. It's like jumping out of an airplane. It's scary, right? But after you get it over with, it's remarkably liberating. And I have become a better person. The people in my life have become better people. The people I interact with have become better people. And I've literally been lucky enough to watch folks in my life, to watch their life change for the better because they saw me jump and then they jumped. And then I watched them go and help other people. So like here, I'll talk about a concrete example. A couple years ago, when I started looking at doing diversity here at the CNCF, I ran an experiment. I said, why don't we, instead of trying to bring 100 diversity scholars for a little bit of interaction, why don't we pick one and just make one person the diversity winner and give them the white glove treatment and really bring them in and really truly get down and help them excel in their career. And so my thesis was like, the CNCF is doing the diversity scholarship with many people. I'm gonna on the side pick one person for myself and I'm gonna try to help them. So I ran like an online poll and I picked someone from Brazil. Their name is Elle. And I've been lucky enough to watch Elle go from a very low-paying job, living in a very uncomfortable living situation, to working in tech and making a great salary. They've moved countries, and now they just got their second tech job. And what's great is I've been able to watch this person grow over the past couple of years, and like watched Elle set the world on fire. And then I've watched it sort of domino downstream, and like Elle's helped people and those people have helped people. And it all started from one person just saying, I'm gonna take the risk and I'm gonna jump. And every time you do that, I really think that you're making the world a better place. You're actually truly making a difference, because even though you're just helping one person, that can continue to spiral downstream.
Awesome, awesome. I just love this story, and that's why I wanted to talk to you for so long.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time. Anything else you'd like to touch upon? This is a story, so there's no end to it.
Right.
Yeah. So anything else that is, or you think that we have covered something? Which is...
I mean, I could talk about this, and I have talked about this for years and years and years. So I think, it's knowing that it's scary and knowing that it's okay, I think is probably the two big pieces of empathy that I want to share with folks. And also, like, you would be surprised how a little bit of courage on your end can actually make a huge difference in the world and help other people be as courageous. Like, I didn't wake up one morning and say to myself, I want to be transgender. Like, honestly, let's think about it. It's like the most embarrassing thing you could probably do. And people are kind of repulsed by it a lot of the time. And so, like, it's not like I thought this was a good idea or that this sounded fun. I didn't really have a choice, right? It picked me, and I didn't pick it. And I think that, having some empathy for folks in that situation is helpful. And knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that it is possible to be successful. And again, I didn't wake up and say, not only am I going to go through a gender transition, but I'm also going to work in open source and have a career and inspire people and help people and write a book and climb mountains and set records. Like, I never woke up and said I wanted to do these things. I just kind of noticed that my life started opening doors for me because I was being honest with myself and loving myself. And as life started opening doors, I had the courage to go take a look inside. And that has actually been really, really successful for me. So it's cool, you got to start somewhere. So just go for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kris, so much for taking your time out and talking today. And as I said, I would love to talk to you again.
Yeah, this has been one of my favorite interviews. This has
Thank you so much.
It's been great. I've really enjoyed talking with you.